All right, y'all. I need to talk to y'all for a minute because I just left the VA, which is the Veterans Administration. For many of y'all that don't know, I served in the military back in the early 2000s. And when I served in the military, the government was very different on how they handled sexuality outside of the common heterosexual orientation. Okay, so when I was in the military, I was in a time period of don't ask, don't tell. You were not allowed to be openly gay. You were not allowed to be openly in a sexual relationship with someone of the same sex or the same gender. Now, they allowed all other types of foolishness to go on, because trust and believe, a lot of foolery, sexual foolery went on in the military. Some things to shock me, okay? But it was, as far as outside of a heterosexual relationship, it was a don't ask, don't tell policy. Times have changed. Times have definitely changed. I just finished a VA appointment, and first of all, when they called me to confirm the appointment, I had to answer questions that were very odd to me. So I had to answer questions such as, are you in a sexual relationship with someone of the same sex? And I'm like, no, I'm not. Do you identify as a heterosexual woman? I'm like, yes, I identify as a heterosexual woman. But I'm like, they never asked me these questions before. So I'm like, when I come in, I'm going to ask them what is going on. And so, y'all, I came into my appointment today and I spoke with the nurse, which was the person who spoke with me, that asked me those questions. She said, I'm the one that spoke with you on the phone. And I said, ma'am, what's going on with all these questions about my sexuality and my sexual orientation and like my sexual history? And she was like, first of all, she revealed two things that to me were greatly disturbing. The first one was, let me go ahead and close it so y'all can see my face. Yeah, much better. Sorry about that, y'all. The first thing she disclosed was that she asked about my sexual history because she said there are an increase in STDs among young people all the way to even the elderly. And I'm like, now y'all, I've been abstinent for going on like 4 years, okay? I don't play that. I save myself for my husband, okay? So I don't play them games. And then, of course, my faith and my standards and things like that. But she said there's been an increase in STDs among young people and among elderly, all the way from young people all the way to the elderly, which tells me that the sexual morale of our society here in America is deteriorating and degrading. And that this is unacceptable. This is absolutely unacceptable. We gain nothing by being sexually promiscuous and treating sex as some casual, flippant thing, just like changing your underwear. We actually gain nothing. We actually lose in that area by gaining STDs. That if you want to talk about what we are gaining, we're gaining STDs. So she said that was point number one. Point number two about why she asked me about my sexual orientation is because when you go into the VA now, they have these flyers or advertisements or posters, I'll say posters up about pronouns and what would you like to be called, and we want to respect, what pronoun you prefer to use in regards to describing yourself. And she said it was very hard. It's very hard for her to ask these questions because, she comes from the time period that I come from with this don't ask, don't tell. And now of that, there was only two pronouns, he and she, him and her. And she said now we are put in a place where we have to abide by the pronouns that each individual person wants to be referred as. So she said, just so that I don't walk out into the lobby and say Mrs. Medina or Ms. Medina, if you don't want to be called by a feminine pronoun, I need to double check with you beforehand to see how should I address you when I come out into the lobby to call your name. And I'm like, y'all, is this that serious with the pronouns? Like, is it that serious? There's only two pronouns, he or she. And we don't realize that, you know, while you have the, let's say, the free will to be what you want to be. If you are a male and you think you're a female trapped in a male's body and that's what you choose to be, okay, that's what you choose to be. But when you start subjecting everyone to your subjective interpretation of yourself, that's where a bunch of confusion, uncomfortability, and even feeling force, downright force, comes from. Because now somebody who might just be okay with two pronouns, he and she, now got to address you as ze, them, them, and him, and shem, and you know what I mean? Like, it's like, is it that serious? And this is all for something that's subjective. Because whether we like to admit it or not, if you think you are a female trapped in a male's body or a male trapped in a female's body, that's subjective. That's not objective. There's no way that we can objectively prove that. That's something that you feel internally. And for you to subject other people to what you feel internally is wrong. Is wrong. And not only that, but they want us, they call us wrong if we say, well, look, we only abide by two genders, and we say that if you were born in a male body, you a male, and if you were born in a female body, you a female, and if you got the male chromosomes, you a male, and if you got the female chromosomes, you a female. That's, to me, that's objective. That's not even subjective. That's DNA. You can't argue against DNA. But again, we live in a country where we have to respect that everyone has the right to feel how they want to feel. But does everyone have the right to subject other people to their feelings? I think that's the point. That's to me, that's where we're crossing the line. And so that was that. And actually, I got 3 points because that just reminded me of another one. That's point number 2. Point number 3, she said now the government is participating in gender reassignment surgery for those who feel they are trapped in the wrong body. And so if you are a veteran who wants to change your gender, the VA hospital will actually provide the service for you. I'm like, man, what world are we in? Did I just enter the Twilight Zone? At what point, let me think, did I come into the Twilight Zone through the lobby? At what point did I enter the Twilight Zone where now the government is allowing and even participating and encouraging people to change their gender not biologically, physically, because it's still not biologically, because your DNA is not going to change. It's physically. Y'all, this is disturbing, because it's one thing for the government to respect the wishes of others, but to actively participate and even encourage by providing the service, the government now providing the service, that's a little disturbing to me. I mean, they can say, okay, if you want to do that and you want to go to a private surgeon to get that service, okay, you know, we're the government, we this is a democracy, you know, this, that, and a third, we respect that. But for the government to join in and to participate, to me, that crosses the line. That crosses the line. That's not neutral to me. That's not neutral. That's, now we're going to encourage this. And y'all, for something subjective, again, for those of you who feel that you're trapped in that body, my heart goes out to you. I can't imagine what you're struggling with internally. All I can say is there is a God who created you in what he thought was the best. And if it's something you're struggling with, you need to go to him and to seek his face. to bring peace internally, because that's an inner turmoil. It's an inner conflict that you're struggling with. So that's something that you need to talk to Jesus about. That's something you need to have a come to Christ moment on. Because there's some people who believe they're all types of things. There's people who believe they're cats. There's people who believe they're dogs. There's people who believe they're babies and they're here 45 years old and they're a baby trapped in a 45-year-old body. And do I believe a lot of children are mentally trapped in grown people's bodies? Yes. Do I believe a lot of disturbed and traumatized people are trapped in walking adult bodies? Absolutely. But it should show us and tell us that there's a problem that needs to be corrected and addressed internally, not physically. Changing your sex physically and making you appear to be something that biologically you're not is not going to be the answer to your problems. Because the LGBTQ community, if I must say, and again, I say this with no disrespect because I love everyone, but their community deals with a lot of inner turmoil and inner conflict already. Okay, the suicide rate is very high. And I think it's not because they're just not accepted by society. It's just, imagine dealing with those type of attractions, those type of mentalities, those type of perspectives, those type of struggles internally. So that it's like almost in a war. It's like it's a war inside of yourself. It's a war in your mind. It's a war internally. And so the suicide rate is going to be high in that community because they're, to me, fighting against something that God established. God established you a certain gender. God established you to love a certain gender. And when you go into conflict against that, you are going against yourself. And so naturally you're going to have those fighting moments. You're going to be like, I don't know. And you're going to have that inner turmoil. And that's why the depression rate is high. The suicide rate is high. Let me tell you something. When we are not operating in the way that God designed us to operate, now this is just beyond sexuality, okay? When we are not operating, period, in the design that God has created us to operate in, there's going to be a rise in depression, and there's going to be a rise in inner turmoil, conflict, and suicide. That's going to be naturally automatic. When I was not living right, when I was not in alignment with God's will, there was inner turmoil within myself. There was inner depression within myself. We all have struggles, whether it's same-sex attractions, feeling you're stuck in the wrong body, anger, bitterness, unforgiveness. We all have struggles, all of us. It's just that our struggles are different from one another. I may struggle with bitterness and unforgiveness. Another person may struggle with feeling they're stuck in the wrong body. It's still an inner struggle. And it's something that only God can correct because it's a soul problem. It's a soul problem. It's a mental problem. It's an emotional problem, which all has to do with the soul. Your soul is your mind, your will, and your emotions. It's a soul problem. And to see the government participating, instead of saying we need counseling, we need to provide more counseling services, we need to provide more spiritual services to our suffering population, we're going to encourage and participate and even provide the service of you changing your sex. And let me tell you, there are more people now coming out who've done it, who now regret what they've done. And they're like, oh my God, what did I do? And let me tell you, I don't know if you're coming back from that. If you chop yourself up down there and chop your breast off and all that, I don't know if you're coming back from that. You probably could get some breast implants and provide breasts again. But it's not going to be, the scars are not going anywhere. And not even that, but the scars that you've had to deal with, not only externally, but internally, are not going anywhere. Y'all, these things that we're struggling with, all these different types of things that we're struggling with, are soul problems. They're soul problems, y'all. And that's something that only God can heal. Only God can deliver. Only God can set free. And this doesn't mean, oh, you speak in hate. No, it's not hate. I have struggled. Now, I haven't struggled with sexuality issues, but I have struggled with soul issues. I've struggled with mental issues, as far as emotional issues, as far as not being in alignment with how God designed me to be as a woman, and trying to think I knew better than God. And therefore, because of that, I struggled. I struggled. I'm no different than you when it comes to struggle. But all I can say is I know who can heal you truly, and that's going to be God. No people agreeing with you, no community agreeing with you, no community backing you up and quote unquote supporting you. That's not support. That's not support, y'all. Support is telling you the truth and pointing you to the real solution. That is support. Support is not saying, yay, you're believing in error, continue on in error. That's not support. That's not support. Again, I don't want to bash anybody. You choose to live the life that you want. That's one thing. If God's going to respect you and respect your decision, I have to. But what I'm talking to the one who knows within themselves that it's not right, but they're struggling and they don't know where to turn and don't know where to go. I'm saying there is an answer. I'm saying there is a solution. You can find healing. You can find deliverance. You can find a better life. And that's going to be in Jesus. And I know many people don't want to hear that. I'm being narrow-minded. I'm being religious. I'm being this and I'm being that. I don't care at the end of the day. Because when you've tasted and seen of the goodness of God and what He's done in my life personally, all I can do is share that with you. That's all I can do. You either want it or you want to continue in your way. But what I do know is if you continue in your way, it's going to be more suffering, more depression, more struggle, more inner turmoil, more inner struggle that you have to deal with. And I just don't want that for you. I want you to be healed. I want you to be delivered. I want you to be set free. And I want you to be everything that God has called you to be. I want you to be your very best. So I just, going to the VA and having to hear this news is disturbing. It is disturbing because we're still not truly providing the help, the spiritual, mental, and emotional help that our people need, that our community needs, that our citizens need, that our people need, that this world needs to really set people free and truly bring people and make people whole. Only God can do that, y'all. Only God can do that. Y'all be blessed on today. I pray for this world, and my heart goes out to people who are struggling in this area. My heart goes out to people who are struggling in general. We all have struggles, y'all. We all are dealing with something. But I say there is a God. There is a God who knows how, who can save, who knows how to set free, and who knows how to deliver, and who knows how to make you whole. Trust in Him today. Seek His face and turn from everything that tries to keep you bound. It feels good, but let me tell you something. It's meant to keep you bound. Love you on today. Talk to you soon. Love you. Bless.